Again, it's an honor. Am I audible? Okay, good. It's an honor to present at ARC. So I'll present, I'm a solution architect working in Saudi Aramco. So the title that the session that I'll present today is the Digital Transformation Journey for Global Manufacturing. Now, global manufacturing is one of the admin areas in the downstream business line. So I like to keep things structured. So this is the agenda. We'll go through the strategy, some of the transformation enablers, and I'll go to the case study and talk about sustainability and benefits realization. Okay. So starting with the strategy, in 2023, Saudi Aramco is the world's leading digitalized energy corporation. And we are trying to innovate with technology, develop the digital workforce, improve the margin, and maximize the localization of young, talented engineers within Saudi Arabia, and also to diversify the revenue, especially with the digital business line. Now, today I'll focus on global manufacturing within Saudi Arabia. Our team does also support manufacturing facilities, or what we call affiliates as well, so joint ventures. And today I'll also talk about the transformational enablers, such as culture, the business, as well as the technical and business foundation elements of that. So starting with the basics, we've been talking about it throughout a couple of days. We have digitization where you want to represent your real world in terms of data. So it could be microfilm images, audio, whatever it is. And to get to the next step, you need to start there. And with digitalization, that's the first step. So you've got to change business mindset to be able to operate in a digital way. And then transformationally, they should stop the old way of doing business, and that's transformation. And if you're really doing it well, you'll be able to generate revenue. And for the oil and gas industry, digital transformation is pivotal because it's going to create new jobs. It's going to create a new digital revenue. And for smart manufacturing, you need real-time data, and you need data that's structured, big data that's structured, so you can take the right decision at the right time. Now, the strategy was started with the corporate strategy, with the Digital Transformation Office, and the downstream business line is one of the admin areas, we call it. And you'll see that we took the approach of having ready-to-deploy technologies. We leveraged the existing skills infrastructure. We had co-ownership of sites with sites, so what worked well, and see what could be scaled to other sites. And we had it was incremental approach for deployment, but we had looked at technologies that transform the way you do business. It's not business as usual. The result was, at the end, you'll see there's 130 use cases across all, but it was funneled from 500 ideas. There was more than 8,000 employees surveyed, and more than 200 interviews. And these were with SMEs from operations, maintenance, and engineering, as well as your planning or your finance team, as well as your IT and OT team. So each of these use cases took careful thought before they were selected for deployment. And if you look at typical manufacturing enterprise system architecture, which you're all familiar with, we have this applicable to any metal, mining, food, beverage, pharmaceutical, and typically you have your process control, you have your physical assets, and they are typically isolated from your business network or your level 3.5 through a DMZ. And then you have your ERP, and all of these are customer-facing through a global ecosystem, through systems and interfaces, electronic data interchange or blockchain. And now we have also the IR4 technology. So many multinationals are finding it very difficult now where to start, which area to focus on. You have all these value-adding great ideas, where to start. So within global manufacturing, we had focused on 6 areas, made it a little simpler to understand. We started with analytics, so your operational and enterprise analytics, and we look at some of the technologies which could characterize the process a lot better, so the digital twin. And we have our smart plant, VR, AR, robotics, UAV, and 3D printing. And at the heart of the strategy is what we call the IMOMS, or Integrated Manufacturing Operations Management System. So the analytics focused on decision support, and I'll touch a bit on how that worked with the business strategy. And the smart plant worked on connecting devices from the field. These could be the IT the industrial Internet of Things devices, so retrofitting even assets or instrumentation that's not really smart. And then we have VR and AR, which helps with immersive training, also helps with inspection team if they need to plan, for example, crane movements through the facility, if we had a good understanding of the assets or resources that need to be leveraged and which tasks could be shared. So these are some of the key themes. If I get into the detail about the business objectives, as we've seen, sustainability is very important. So the way we tied up the digital transformation with the business objectives is we went simply, okay? So if you look at your descriptive part, which is typically your dashboards, analytics, and making it visible. So you need to have good data. You need to have quality data for each of the areas. It needs to be, for example, we had dashboards. Then diagnostics, if you have an emission alert, if you have a prediction alert on an asset, if you have a tank constraint. So those are in the context of which tank, in the context of which furnace. So those are diagnostic and providing some guidance on how to react to that situation. And then you move to predictive and prescriptive. So the prescriptive, we have facilities that have real-time optimization that's closing the loop with the process itself, where we have algorithms that were built using first principle models and with steady state detection allows those models to start operating properly. So those are how we tied up the initiatives, mapped them to here, and there's value cards for the digital initiatives. So the value card is created during the project phase, and we track the value card throughout the deployment phase. So and during if I can stop on transformation enablers, so the major one was culture. So we needed to get a drive for this change. So the drive was to look at, okay, if there's an operations team who's been operating for a long way, in the old practice, how do we encourage them to change? So we looked at getting, for example, success stories. And if there's resistance to change, we had, for example, surveys and identified what exactly is resistance to change. Is it training, awareness, and or is it visits to other facilities where it works? So those were around cultural transformation. And then we went to the business ownership. So we met with the management for that facility with their OME team, and along with those prioritized digital capabilities that we want to deploy, we worked with the team to say, okay, we have a roadmap. Let's start tracking how many of those you're going to deploy every quarter or every month. And then we looked at the transformation. So transformation is, okay, after it's done, what do you do? Make sure your operations excellence manuals are updated, your TPRM manuals are updated, and there are KPIs to track system utilization as well as the benefits thereof. And then there's the basic or foundational part, which is, here you have, for example, a paper-based system. You cut over to a system that does operations monitoring, handover, takeover, and instructions automatically. Sounds easy to say, let's start doing this. But somebody has an old way of doing it. They might say, this takes me 15 minutes. Now you're going to bring in system. I have to go learn how to do it. So we have to go about sitting with the team, even in the control room, or start making videos with them, or at least relate to somebody in that area who's happy to start using it so that we could start using that success story with the rest of the users. And the last part is about making sure that it's well governed. It's coming from the top down. Should be part of the performance criteria for that person, for that process, for that area to start using the new system. So if it's value. And I'll go on to the case study. So the case study is, again, focused on the IMOM. And it's a platform that, as mentioned earlier, it's allowing for the right information to get to the right user at the right time, so it takes the right decision. And it's based on integrated platforms. So here's some of the user interfaces. So here you'll see there's operations user interface. This is the barriers. And this dashboard is typically for a supervising operator. So you could actually look at the permits in that operating area and have a look for appetite before issuing a permit, as an example. And we work with technology providers and using Aramco best practices, GIs, and procedures to make sure that the system meets corporate requirements. So it's pre-engineered solution, and here we have asset health monitoring. This is trend for environmental management. Here's mass and energy balances. This is the digital twin for helping to manage crane movements or simulating crane movements. Here's hydrocarbon scheduling to identify proactively constraints in tank inventory using, and the last one is around KPI management. So some of the systems run in the background without users having to interface, but some of the systems are very highly used by a lot of people. Some are used very specialized by modeling teams. Some are by TNI engineers. So it's a multidisciplinary platform, and it's covering more than 500 business processes. We have a support team that's taking care of it. It's in-house and external support team. And here you'll see the role-based dashboard. It's also mobile-enabled. And it's currently with 4 refineries, 2 NGLs, and we're looking to have this as commercial offering for the affiliates as well. And this is the architecture. So it was started with planning and scheduling, your mass and energy balance, and your operator advisory or refinery instructions, and operations monitoring, process safety, environmental, and your reliability systems. We call it online fault modeling, asset performance management, asset predictivity, analytics, TNI. And these are integrated with the corporate systems to bring data into common platforms such as your dashboards, your 3D virtualization system. And now with the new systems coming online, we don't want to confuse everybody. So if you're bringing in a new system, we need to find out where it's going to be, what function it's going to do in the new landscape, so that it's not going to be just another technology it should be used. And that's for the sustainability part. We have a continuous improvement, starting with the idea, evaluate it, deploy it, and support and sustain. So we have this cycle of continuous improvement that's being used for the support model. And for the change management, we start again with the key SMEs involved in the design, have them part of the poster development and communications. And as we go live and go to sustainability, we need to make sure that those awareness sessions become formal training. And if it's formal training, it should be e-learning. And if it's vendor-delivered products, then it should be through their e-learning platforms. Otherwise, we brought some of the e-learning within the company. And I'd like to end with this slide. So we're trying to measure all of these benefits. As I said, we have a value card for the digital deployment. So each of these value cards after deployment are being measured, not only for system utilization. So I'd like to end there. So I try to get it done in 15 minutes. I hope I did that. Thanks, Greg.